There was a question, and this one was more directed to JD, and that was, where do you get your Uncrustables?
I get them from Costco.
Where in Costco are they located?
The freezer aisle.
Okay.
So, but they have strawberry and they have grape. I'm more of a strawberry guy, but my kids are more of grape. So trying to talk the wife into getting both with freezer space is always a question.
Do you eat them soft or like partially frozen or?
Partially frozen for sure. Yeah. I have a very strict, I'd set a timer on my phone, 9 minutes, and I sit on it while I watch TV. 9 minutes later, it is perfect. The peanut butter is still a little frozen, but the bread is soft, and then the middle is soft. 9 minutes sitting on it.
Right under JD's cheek.
Keep it in the plastic.
Couldn't ask for anything more. Okay, so JD insisted that he would be the co-host of this one. So he really wanted to be here for yours so that he could grill you on all things just in general, just life. But
I thought you're asking JD and me questions.
I'll ask you both questions.
All right, good.
So this is one that came through on Instagram is, at this point in your lives, do you feel like law school was worth it?
Probably getting to that point. I mean, law school is a beast, no doubt about it. And coming out, it's a lot of hours, and you're the low man on the totem pole, and there's nowhere to push work. And I mean, the buck stops with you. I'm getting to the point now where when I get projects I don't like, I can start passing those on to even more junior associates. I'm a mid-level associate right now at my firm, and so it's getting better. And I don't know, the future is looking even brighter too. So yeah, I'm glad I went.
Perfect. And you started at Gonzaga and then ended at BYU?
Yeah, so I did my first year at Gonzaga. That's where I met JD. And JD was a 3L in his third year of law school when I was in my first year. And then JD graduated, and then I transferred back to BYU. And then that's where I met Kyle.
Oh, nice. Yeah, cool. Is it worth it for you?
Most of the time, yes. There's some days I feel like there's a certain stress level, but I'm sure it's similar in other jobs where you're mostly dealing with other people's problems. That's constant over and over again. That I don't think you get in as many other jobs that can be taxing. The actual job and the self and the pay and everything like that makes it worth it. But just dealing constantly with someone else's problem can be overly taxing emotionally after long periods of time.
Definitely. I mean, there's countless sleepless nights where I just have like people's problems, just trying to think, how can I solve this problem? And I mean, not only do you have to solve it, you have to solve it in like a financially viable way, and you got all kinds of constraints. I mean, you got to stick within the boundaries of the law. And yeah, I 100% agree with JD that it can definitely be stressful and taxing.
You two are both in a lot different areas of law too, though. So you're in bankruptcy, is that right?
Yeah, I do bankruptcies and restructurings, mostly on the commercial and the creditor side. Represent primarily like institutional lenders, like your big banks, but we do some debtor work. But yeah, I mean, mostly just trying to fight over other people's money.
I've heard that. So there's commercial, as you talked about, but then there's also just normal person, right? Bankruptcies. Where is the money in bankruptcy law? Like, how do you get paid?
It depends on what you do. If you're doing like consumer, like an individual, like I file for bankruptcy, there's not a lot of, it's not that lucrative. Only in some instances, you kind of get paid a commission on what you're able to recover. So if someone files for bankruptcy, you can kind of go back and avoid transfers and look back at their financial history, see if they're committing any kind of fraud, which a lot of people do. When funds are getting tight, they start choosing who they're going to be paying, and they're not paying their standard creditors, and they're giving money off to their spouse or to their father-in-law, whoever. And so you can come back and recover and you get a commission of that. But yeah, that's not as lucrative as just doing the big business.
Yeah.
And I mean, when a company's bankrupt, that doesn't mean they don't have cash. It just means they're not able to service all their debt. So there's still plenty of cash to pay the attorneys. It's just big picture-wise, they're not able to service.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but like in a bankruptcy, bankruptcy is one of the only areas of law. Bankruptcy and immigration law are only types that I probably haven't touched a little, but the law kind of structures a way that you can still get paid in those instances where it doesn't count against their the debts that they owed, that they can first pay their attorneys and then move on.
Right. So yeah. So I mean, you have like a tax code. You have a similar a bankruptcy code. It's a lot less voluminous than the tax code, but yeah, under that bankruptcy code, it kind of gives you a priority of where you get paid. And I mean, attorneys get paid first, which is nice.
That's nice. And yours is completely different than bankruptcy, as you just mentioned. Yours has kind of been all over the place in your private practice, and now you're a corporate attorney. Talk
Yeah,
about
so
that.
I was a private attorney, just a solo practitioner for almost 4 years, and I did pretty much anything that would walk through the door at that point. I didn't do immigration, I didn't do bankruptcy. They felt a little too far out there, but now I currently am Associate General Counsel for a solar company. So kind of pivoted from representing a ton of smaller companies and individuals to now I represent one client.
Do you enjoy that change?
Most of the time, yeah. It's fun to get good at something as opposed to, I don't know, my solo practice felt like my man games career where I'm mediocre at everything and not good at anything, when this is allowing me to practice one type that I feel like I can get better at instead of, again, being mediocre at everything.
Gotcha. Very cool. So we're actually going through this again for the second time, but Suits is one of my favorite shows of all time. How accurate is Suits?
Oh, 100% accurate. Just malpractice. It's pretty prevalent.
Yeah.
Carson does it every day. It's easy to blackmail someone. It's actually, people incentivize it. It's better that way. No, it's not accurate at all.
What amazes me is that they get these entire files that you can see are super thick. And there was one recently that we watched where they're like, okay, there's some sort of financial fraud going on here. And they get the file. We take a look at this. They open it up. Oh yeah, here it is right here. They like immediately understand what's happening in the entire case. Is that how law works?
No. There's a lot of diligence, and there's a lot of associates that are digging through all that stuff. I mean, I've had some depositions that have kind of gone how Suits are, where you're standing up swearing at each other. Usually they're swearing at me. I'm like, oh, jeez. That's what bankruptcy gets you. People get pretty emotional in there, but yeah, like JD said, it's not exactly that accurate.
It's very rare you get that like smoking gun where you like point out the one spot where everything turns on, or like in the deposition they admit to you like corner them into.
But
this
when you
one
do,
thing.
it's pretty great.
Few and far between. Harvey gets it every time. I get it very rarely.
Once a year.
Yeah.
What is accurate about these law shows? Not just Suits, but there are several of them that are like this. Or maybe what is the most accurate show that you've seen on TV?
That it's very demanding of your time.
Is that corporate structure? Because they kind of have the partners and then the associates and all of that stuff, and now they kind of like farm a lot of work out to the associates.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
They lean on you to do all like the things that they don't want to do, and all the things that like are more, I don't know, not easier to do, but just more time consuming, like sorting through documents and things like that are not something that someone that is earned their place really wants to do every day.
Yeah. It seems like a lot of the strategies in the TV cases, like we're going to send all of the documentation we have so that it takes them 4 years to get through it. Is that a legit thing? Does that happen?
Usually not. Usually you want, at least all my clients, they want to be very selective on what they give. You don't want to give more information than you're required to.
Yeah.
So, under the law, you could subpoena documents where it's essentially a court order that you have to produce the documents. And if you don't, you can be held in contempt and face sanctions or fines or whatever. So you have to comply, but we don't want to give them any more information than we have to. So we could object to producing any records. We could say, okay, you're asking for everything under the sun. We'll give you A, B, and C. Mm-hmm. That should be good. Leave us alone. And then if they want to fight, then you fight about it and you try to negotiate and work out, or a lot of redacting certain information you don't want to give them, and then you can kick that can down the road and have that discussion later too.
I have seen it where they've especially like in insurance defense cases with like medical records, where it's just like huge amounts of documents.
Mm-hmm.
And before I was in a solo practice, so I didn't have anyone else to rely on. And I felt like sometimes people would try to do that to me because they're like, hey, if I give this guy 4,000 or 10,000 documents, like one guy, how long is it going to take to get through? But for the most part, I think it's what Carson said, is that you want to limit it, and you're then fighting about how limited you how much limited information you gave to them.
Yeah. This is the last legal question. We can move on past legal stuff because this is a Man Games episode.
Okay, so then I can turn my timer off and send you the bill for this.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
Exactly. Well, that raises lots of other questions. But what is a common misconception that people have about attorneys that you wish could be corrected?
I think they're pretty accurate.
All stereotypes are 100% accurate.
Got an answer, Carson?
I mean, I'm trying to think of what the stereotypes are. I'm so narrowed in now into the actual life. I'm trying to think when I was younger looking at attorneys. I mean, one of the things is you're always hesitant of you don't know what the bill is going to be until the work is done. And that gets a lot of people pretty hesitant to start engaging attorneys. But I mean, I'd say a lot of the times attorneys are needed and people aren't using them until it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that really answers your question, but that was a misconception I have is you only use attorneys when it's the very last resort. But a lot of times the attorneys can kind of help you build up and you can avoid a lot worse situations by getting more involved earlier.
I think that goes with the blood sucking, they're going to suck you of every dollar you ever had.
Yeah.
I think there are attorneys that stereotype fits perfectly. And I'm sure Carson's been against those attorneys, but I think there are instances where most attorneys just want to resolve the problem because they know they will get more work from resolving the problem quickly and efficiently than they would, hey, every client, every dollar I'm going to get that they have.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people, I mean, the bills are usually pretty high.
Yeah.
But I think most attorneys or a majority of attorneys would try to help.
Yeah.
And when that timer is rolling, I want to feel you have 100% of my attention. You're paying for this time. I need to make sure that you're getting what you're paying for. So, I mean, sometimes I discount my time. That took me 0.4 hours, but that really should have taken me 0.2 if my mind wasn't off thinking about the Jazz game last night.
Yeah.
So
when you say a timer, do you actually have a timer or is it something?
My whole day is a timer.
Really? Like a chess timer, you're pushing the button?
It's electronic. It's on the computer, but it's okay, turning to this matter, start the timer.
Yeah.
Okay, new email comes in, urgent, new matter, stop the timer, new timer, start on that matter. And then at the end of the day, it just collects all your time. And then at the end of the month, it gets put into a bill.
Wow.
Do you 6-minute increments?
Yeah, it's the worst. So 6-minute, 0.1 hours.
Wow.
And what's the normal billing rate at your firm?
High. I'm really low, and I think I'm 480.
Wow. And then yours is different. When you were doing your solo practice, would you do a similar thing or not?
No, I had to. Yeah, I had to bill for the most part. There's some cases that you can take on, like a personal injury case. Being on the plaintiff side, you can take on what's called a contingency fee, meaning you pay when it's collected. There are certain instances where I just did it on a flat fee, like a will or something like that. That you just, this is what it would cost.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's every minute you're timing and figuring out what the bill is from there. I was notoriously bad at that, but that was the idea.
So, I mean, in law school, you talk to people, everyone's I want to go in-house. I want to go in-house just because you don't have the billable hour. You don't have to live your life by the timer. You don't have to worry about getting clients. So JD's already living the dream.
You're living the dream.
Yeah, so now I don't have to record. There's certain instances where I do. There's cases that we have that maybe attorney's fees would be attached to it.
Right.
And so there's a question of whether we can collect. So then I do track my time. But for the most part, I'm only tracking it to show that I'm actually doing something at work.
And is there a pressure when you're in part of a firm to have your billable hours to a certain point throughout the month? Is that something that they're looking for?
Yeah, you have a yearly quota.
Okay.
So for me at my firm, it's on the low end. So I'm in a big law firm, and usually big law, you got high billable requirements. My firms, we're lucky, so we're on the low end, and it's about $1,800 a year.
Wow. And just to put that into context, like a full-time employee is 2,080 hours if you're doing 40 hours a week, but yours is billable time. You're still doing other things that aren't necessarily billable time.
Going sorting through my emails or doing there's a lot of stuff I do that I don't bill for because it's this isn't really legal work.
Yeah. So I think the natural reaction would be oh, that's under 2080, that's under 40 hours a week, but it's a lot more than 40.
Right. So I shoot for 7.5 billable hours a day.
Yeah.
I usually far exceed that, but I mean, 7.5 hours billable hours, that's probably closer to 9-hour working day.
Wow. That's wild.
Is that value billing or is that straight billing?
Straight billing.
I don't know the difference.
There's some attorneys that do something called value billing, meaning like, hey, I used a document that was closely related to a document that I used before. The first time I drafted it took me X amount of time, took me 2 hours. But this time, because I was using that document, it's a similar case. It only took me 45 minutes, but I'm going to bill you for the 2 hours because that's what it would have taken had I started from scratch. So it's a question of whether, it's always a question of, there's nothing against it necessarily, but it's always a question of whether attorneys do that or don't do that.
So I think that's why my rate's a lot higher, because I have a lot of documents that we have like our whole firm database I can pull from, find something similar, and I'm usually pretty quick at getting something out. So it's at the end the cost balances out, but it's hard to build up the hours.
So I have so many questions. I should probably stop. But I think of I have some really good friends that are doctors. And so they go through medical school and then they have this kind of a lot of stress of not just getting into the medical school, but then getting into a residency, getting into a fellowship, and then finding employment. Is it a similar concept from law's perspective of you get into law school and then is there some sort of a placement where you're trying to get somewhere where you can be an associate? Is that a pretty competitive process?
Yeah, so I mean, you're trying to get into a good law. You're trying to get a good LSAT to get into a good law school, and to get a good law school, you're trying to get a high class rank. Then from your high class rank, you're trying to get a good first job, and then it's kind of that good first job that kind of sets you out and lets you chart your course.
That's cool. Very cool. All right, let's move on to sports, shall we?
Let's.
What's your athletic backgrounds? We'll start with JD, and then we'll move over to Carson.
I was a high school athlete for basketball, football, and soccer. I was mediocre at all three.
Don't forget a junior high boxer.
And yes, I did box in 7th grade until I got hit in the face really hard one time and then decided that wasn't for me anymore.
Nice. Very cool. What's your athletic background? Well, you're in Utah, right? You're born and raised in Utah.
I went to high school. So I moved when I was in high school. I started at Alta and then moved to a smaller school, South Summit, up in Camas, Utah.
Very cool.
Nice.
Carson?
So I'm from Canada. I grew up, I played volleyball, basketball, baseball. That was about it. I mean, track and field, but nothing serious.
Very cool. And well, volleyball, I know your successes in volleyball, but was that always your favorite, or is that something that you just were gifted towards?
I always liked, like in high school, I liked basketball more, but in college, I was getting recruited a lot more heavily for volleyball, and the scholarship offers were better in volleyball. And I'm like, this is kind of where I'm going to have more success. And so I chose to go volleyball. But I mean, passion-wise in high school, it was definitely more basketball.
Yeah.
And now I'm more golf. I just like to golf.
That's awesome. Will you take us through the recruitment process? Because a lot of people are like, oh, I could have played college, or they played high school and they didn't really get recruited for that sport. They had to kind of proactively go out and hope to get somewhere. What is that process like, getting recruited to a college?
Yeah, I mean, the stars kind of aligned for me. So the goal was always to play volleyball at BYU. BYU has one of the top teams in the country. And what happened is they had a old, like the men's volleyball coach before the coach at that time. So he had just retired. He came up and he ran a camp up in Canada that I went to. And at the camp, he's like, wow, like this kid can play. And then he referred my name down to the current coach. And then that same week, another college coach up in Canada who has connections to BYU said the same thing. Like, hey, there's this kid that we're seeing. He's interested in going to BYU. You should look at him. And so they heard from 2 different people within like a week or 2 of each other, like, hey, there's this kid in Canada. So then they reached out, said, hey, send us some film, sent some game film into them. And they said, okay, like you can play. We want you to come to our team. But at the time, BYU volleyball was under sanctions for some illegal recruiting. It's not as egregious as it sounds. There was a Cuban that was he was a teenager playing on the Cuban national team. They had a tournament in Canada, and he defected. And there was like a booster for BYU who thought he was being like a good Christian and said, hey, come live at my house. Like, I'll take care of you till you can get a good score on the ACT and go play at BYU, which is a great school. It's like my alma mater. And so he was doing that, but since he was a booster and giving him these illegal benefits, BYU lost a lot of scholarship spots. So they said, okay, Carson, go on your mission, or go play a year up in Canada. So I played my freshman year up in Canada. I said, go on your mission. When you come back, we'll have a roster spot for you and everything will work out. And when I was on my mission, that coach got fired.
No.
And so then I had to walk on after my mission, after not touching a ball for 2 years. And by the skin of my teeth, I made it. And then I redshirted after my mission, and then I finished out my last 3 years rostering.
That's wild.
Did you have a lot of other schools looking at you? Had you received other letters?
Oh, yeah. In Canada, I think pretty much everyone did. But the dream was always to go to BYU.
What is it about being a college athlete that is different than the high school level that people just don't understand?
There's a lot more money in college.
Yeah.
Like your facilities are much nicer. At BYU is like all the gear you could want. Just come walk up and say what you want, and they'll give it to you. Shoes, everything. They give you they called it a fuel card, where you could just walk around and swipe it on campus to get free food. They had like snack shacks all over, and I don't know. I just say that there was just a lot more money funneled into college, and yeah, they took care of you. I mean, and that's like all you did. Like in high school, like I remember, like I had some seasons concurrently, and you're just trying to like juggle between practice. At BYU was like you're only doing volleyball. You wake up in the morning, you have weights at 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock you're doing serve and pass for an hour, and then you're going to do a 3-hour practice from 3 to 6. After that, we'll watch film, and you can go to the treatment center and take care of your body, and we'll do it again tomorrow.
You told me one time, I think it was your first. So shoulders are the big workout, right, for volleyball players?
Yeah.
You told me about like a freshman workout where they put you through. Do you remember this? You told me it's a hilarious story.
When is it?
Where they made you go through like a full shoulder exercise, like going down the weights.
Oh, this wasn't the coach. This was like your initiation onto the team, like your little hazing. Yeah, and so like I think it was curls that day. They made you do curls. So you started out like curling like 40s, and then after you maxed out, you went down to 35s. And anyways, at the end, you have to go to like the women when they're having practice, and you're like doing like 5-pound dumbbells, and you can't even lift your arms. Is that what you're talking about?
That's what I'm talking about. Didn't they make you dress up for it?
Oh yeah, we were wearing something goofy. I think it was like a pink like cut off tank top or something.
That's awesome. I've told that story to multiple people. I'm just like the idea of like starting somewhere where you like look like a normal, because all these guys are top-notch athletes, and then by the time you get down to it, you told me they came in with cameras, and they were filming you
couldn't
and
even
like
lift your arms.
legitimately struggling with fives, just trying to get them up as like this freshman trying to find your spot. I love that.
That's awesome. When college sporting, are you pretty close with other college athletes or like the other sports?
Teams?
Yeah.
So at BYU, you had the SAB building, the student athlete building, where only student athletes could go, and they gave you like tutors and like just gave you like study space, and that's kind of where the athletes will kind of congregate. So naturally, you kind of make friends with those people. At the time, we shared a locker room with men's tennis and I think cross country. So we were close with some of the tennis players. Since then, they've all gone their ways and got separate rooms. But
what years were you there?
At BYU, 12 to 16.
So I must have just missed you. Did you know an Andrew Heap?
Yeah.
So I went to BYU for 3 years. And the first year, my freshman year, so before my mission, I was going to go play basketball down at Dixie, went on my mission, got home, started dating my wife, and then like basketball just kind of took a back seat for me. And so I was like, I'm just going to focus on this. And the coach was like, hey, if you ever get the passion back, call me. So my first year at BYU, I start playing in intramurals, and I'm like, you know what, I really like basketball. So I call him. I was like, hey, can I come down? He's like, yeah, come down in 3 months, and we'll start looking at you. And so I started going to, is it the Smith Fieldhouse where you play your games and practices? So I would go there, and there were 3 courts, and the volleyball team would take up the first 2 courts, and then the third court was open, and so you could just go shoot. So I just run myself through drills and stuff, and then the volleyball team would end, and I'd go play basketball with the volleyball team. And they're all like former all-state basketball players too. So it was some of the funnest basketball memories I have of playing with the BYU volleyball team. But I don't think you were there yet. I think it was just, I just missed you.
So Andrew Heap, so we played together for 1 year. So his senior year was my first year, my redshirt year back from my mission.
Mm-hmm.
And then Andrew's younger brother, he was my year, and we played together. We were roommates, and we lived together and ended up my days with him.
That's awesome.
Yeah, the Heaps are great.
Those volleyball players are nuts, though. I mean, they're all huge, like tall and springy. And
well, the Smith Fieldhouse is nice too, because that floor is really springy. So I remember like my first like kind of like free play like they started doing like a dunk contest after, and like some of these guys are getting their heads above the rim and they're already like 6'10". I'm like, jeez.
Yeah.
I'm looking around in like team huddle, seeing just shoulders. I'm like, this is a different world.
I know how that is. Yeah.
Yeah, we both know how that is.
Very familiar.
There
It's
are
just
people
JD walking through Walmart.
there are people that can do dunks that I can't do on a trampoline. That's what's so wild. It's just the athleticism. But I got a bone to pick with both of you because Kyle said that when you guys were going to come into man games, you're like, we got to beat Eric's team. So what's that all about?
We just wanted to go at the top dog.
Yeah.
We knew who it was. We had a plan. We did not execute it very well.
Yeah,
what
what went wrong?
Started with our golf day. Carson was on, but
Well, going in golf, we were just trying to aim middle of the pack, and we were upper half. So I don't think we can blame golf.
I do have to admit, so most tall guys aren't coordinated enough to play golf. And so it was coming in, JD was like, yeah, Carson golfs. And we played in a men's league before, so I knew who you were. And so I was like, oh, as I was looking at his swing and I saw you swing, and I was like, uh-oh. Like, he actually looks like he has a decent swing. And that kind of made me a little bit nervous. But
Carson won't talk about it, but there were a few holes where he unwinded. And we're talking, I don't know, what was that one hole how far did you hit it?
380?
like dead left, but he hit it really.
No, it was dead
380,
straight.
4 holes over.
No, we're talking dead straight, 380. It gets us like on the fringe of this par 4. And obviously none of us can even get it close. So it doesn't matter that we were even 380 away. But Carson was on fire the entire day off the tees.
The golf, we bogeyed. How many par 3s did we bogey? Was it 3?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So, I mean, bogeys kill you in scramble. So we bogeyed 3 par 3s.
Short game. Was not our strong
Impressive tee box, though. We did well.
Yeah.
So you've been to man games 3 times?
I think this was my 4th.
4th? But you're like heavily involved in this. I mean, I bounce pretty much every idea off of you. So how does this one rank to the other ones that you've been a part of?
This one was the most competitive, I felt like. I felt like this had the best athletes that we've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
So in that aspect, I think it was probably the most fun in that way.
Mm-hmm.
I still love the original man games that was just Eric throwing an idea out there, and 8 of us went and stayed at a cabin. It was the original crew. That was probably still like the highlight of my man games experience, just because it was just something new and something that we had never done before. But outside of that one, this was probably my favorite.
Very cool. And how was it pitched to you, Carson?
So JD's actually pitched me. You've pitched me twice on this now, right?
I did. Yeah, I tried to recruit you one other time.
I think it was twice, but that's all right. No. But yeah, like it just didn't work out with work. And then he said like this time, like, yes, I need to make this happen. I think I saw like the Instagrams, like this looks like a lot of fun, like something I definitely want to do. And so, yeah, JD just said like, hey, we need someone who can hit home runs. I'm like, well, I'm not your guy. But
you cranked a few, right?
I got a couple, but yeah. So then I said, hey, Kyle played college baseball. Let's get Kyle.
Turns out he's a pitcher, though. No one disclosed
that was a big
to
oversight.
me until we got there.
I think he still did pretty well. I think he got the top score on our team. But yeah, anyways, JD's like, yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I mean, I obviously knew you from playing the intramural basketball. I'm like, yeah, Eric's a great guy. And just sounds like a bunch of good hangs. And go take a weekend off and go play.
I think that's the biggest thing is that like you're looking for someone that, I mean, Carson obviously dominated volleyball and was good at everything else. But you're all
not everything.
My biggest thing is like I have to be with this person for 2 days straight. Like he has to also be someone that I enjoy hanging out with and is going to be fun. Like 4 hours of golf can really get tedious if you're with someone you don't like. So, I mean, Carson crossed all the boxes for me.
There have been
Except
multiple
for pickleball, right? I did let us down in pickleball.
We both had a rough day.
I've had several people say that of like, I really want to bring this person, but I don't think I could hang out with them for 2 days. And so I don't know if I want to bring them.
I've said that multiple times about multiple people.
I know some of those people because I pitched some.
Oh no, they didn't make the list.
Yeah. So what surprised you the most? This is being your first one. What surprised you the most from it? Good or bad?
I mean, going in, I thought, okay, so like I know JD, I know Kyle. I didn't know Grant, who was our 4th teammate. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go in there. I'm going to get to know one guy. But I didn't realize like this is like you go in and you're going to know like 40 guys. And this is like a big like event, like just the kind of the camaraderie going on between all the guys. Like that was awesome. Just like meeting all these guys and they're all great. Like no egos, at least that I saw. And it was a lot of fun. Like even after you're done competing, it's a lot of high fives and joshing around. That's what I thought was pretty awesome.
Yeah, for a bunch of mostly outside of Eric and I, former college athletes, I'm really surprised that there's never, at least the ones I've been at, there's very few like even things that rise at all of like egos getting up there, altercations or anything like that. When you join a men's league and it's like every other game, like someone's getting in a fight. So I think that is a huge thing for me.
It's almost like referees make it worse.
Oh yeah.
But when it's call your own fouls, and we have a couple of arguments that happen, but they aren't, I wouldn't say arguments. It's just like, oh, you sure? And then it kind of dies down, but it's not too bad. So there was a question that came through on Instagram of which one of you is the better volleyball player and why is it JD?
That was not.
I mean, anyone can hit a ball, but not anyone can sauce it up like JD.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that everyone that sees those highlights on Instagram, just how perfect those sets are. Like,
true.
Sure, Carson hits it like 2 feet from the net straight down, but I feel like anyone could have done that if
if the ball is put where it was, anyone can do that.
Yeah. Well, I couldn't, but that's awesome.
Well, you didn't have JD settings,
that's
so
true.
you don't know.
That's true. Brandon can't set at all.
Brandon's mediocre at best.
Very mediocre.
Just to be clear, that was not me that posed that question.
Okay.
Right.
We'll talk offline.
There was a question, and this one was more directed to JD, and that was, where do you get your Uncrustables?
I get them from Costco.
Where in Costco are they located?
The freezer aisle.
Okay.
So, but they have strawberry and they have grape. I'm more of a strawberry guy. But my kids are more of grape, so trying to talk the wife into getting both with freezer space is always a question.
Do you eat them soft or like partially frozen or?
Partially frozen for sure. Yeah. I have a very strict, I'd set a timer on my phone, 9 minutes, and I sit on it while I watch TV. 9 minutes later, it is perfect. The peanut butter is still a little frozen, but the bread is soft and then the middle is soft. 9 minutes sitting on it.
Right under JD's cheek.
Keep it in the plastic.
Couldn't ask for anything more. Well, and Kyle kind of gave us a little bit of light into your diet and regime as to how to be a finely tuned athlete. Tell us how you stay in shape.
Well, I don't think I am in shape, but
I've got highlight videos that beg to differ.
I don't do a lot, honestly.
Yeah.
In the winter, I ski, and in the summer, I golf. So there you go.
Very cool. Outside of volleyball, what was your favorite event to participate in?
I'd say golf's my favorite event, hands down. Yeah, I love golfing. I'm not great at it, but I do love doing it.
Yeah.
The tracking was awesome for golf.
Yeah.
Being able to see where everyone was. Kyle and Carson were just constantly telling us we had to do better. And Grant and I just kept telling them, we don't golf, so that's on you guys.
Yeah, that was a cool app. The course told us about that the day before, so that was pretty
sick. No, that was really slick.
That was nice to know. All the other man games that I've been to, you've had no idea where everyone else was, so you just come in and start naming off scores, but that having it track as we go was awesome.
Yeah, that was sweet. What was your favorite sport or event?
I was most excited for pickleball. I started to get really into pickleball at the beginning of the summer, and I thought it was going to be better, and I couldn't hit a shot in. So pickleball was what I was most excited for, but the baseball just was fun. It was just cool to be out there under the lights. I was absolutely terrible. I don't think I've swung since T-ball. I think I beat like 1 or 2 people in my score, like of all the 40, but just being out there in like the field, talking trash to people.
Yeah.
That was probably my favorite.
And I feel like you did a good job because like you have like high intensity sports like basketball where it's just go, 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 go. But then you like mix in like a softball where like one guy's going, everyone else can kind of sit back and relax and kind of interact with the other teams. So that was a lot of fun.
You guys yelling dirt like anytime somebody. So for those who weren't part of it, our home run derby, you got a point if the ball landed in the outfield. You got 2 points if it hit the fence, whether on the fly or rolled up, and then you got 3 if you hit a home run. And so you guys were just screaming dirt on like anything that was obviously not in the outfield or whatever. It was hilarious.
You play to win the game, and you just want to make sure the score is accurate. And if it hits the dirt, they don't get any points.
You got to make sure.
Yeah,
and you have to let them know because they might not have been watching the ball.
Yeah, when the scorekeeper was far away, so
you never knew.
And we don't want them thinking about their next swing. We want them to remember you hit your last one in the dirt. Play accordingly.
That never got to me. I just hit most of them in the
dirt. Your mental fortitude was better.
The mental strength was there. The physical was not.
Yeah. What sports would you like to see in future man games that weren't at this one?
Cornhole. I like cornhole.
Cornhole was a blast. We did it a couple man games ago. I like that for the kind of the same reasons that for baseball, like you had a chance to stand next to someone that you probably didn't know very well and talk to them for 10, 15 minutes.
It's a little less intensity. It takes a little bit of the physical pressure off from the other more physically demanding sports.
Were you sore after the first day?
Not terrible. I'll tell you what was bad was at the end of it, my 2 big toenails I took off my socks at the end of Saturday and they were just soaked in blood and my 2 big toenails were just off.
Oh, wow.
And I went to Disneyland the next day and I was like limping around Disneyland. It was a mess.
My left toenail was busted on that one against you guys that I clearly saved and JD called out. I broke my toenail on that one. So.
I don't even remember that, but it was clearly
So
out.
for all man game future participants, prepare your toenails.
Watch your toenails. Get good shoes. Yeah.
I can't think of any other events that Cornhole was a blast when we did it. Bowling was a good time when we did it. I'd like to see bowling again. I mean, these are all events.
I'm a terrible bowler.
Spring qualifiers.
These are all events I'm terrible at, though.
Yeah.
Trying to think of things that I'd actually be good at.
Halo.
Yeah. Oh, we have had video games previously. If we would have had Halo this year, we would have dominated.
Yeah. We'll have to work that into a qualifiers. Like actually having it at the event is one of the biggest nightmares that I've ever experienced. Just the logistics of
consoles and
8 TVs, 8 consoles, 32 controllers, the HDMI cables, everything is just a mess.
Oh, poker was amazing. I love poker.
Yeah.
That was awesome.
I enjoy any event where it's slower, where I can talk shit to other people.
Are we allowed to swear on this?
Yeah, of course.
Oh man, I've been holding back this whole time.
Yeah, you can say whatever you want.
I enjoy those events, like where it's like slower and they know you're not going to be serious. Because I feel like if you do that in basketball, someone's going to take you like seriously and be offended. But like in a poker game that none of us really have any clue what we're doing, and you call someone out, like everyone finds it humorous and a good time. So I enjoyed all the events that gave me an opportunity to talk shit, but that it wasn't taken too seriously.
If you ask me, I mean, I don't think you should ever get rid of golf. I think that needs to be at every man games. Basketball, I think needs to be at every man games. I'd say poker needs to be at every man games. Besides that, mix them up. But those 3, I think those need to be kind of foundational. These are at every man games.
Yeah, very cool.
Dodgeball was great too, though.
Yeah.
See, that was when my toenails were already off, and I was like, get me out of here, kamikaze
Carson,
mode.
every dodgeball game, he did the same thing. Ran, got one ball, and he's like, I'm going to get one person, and I'm going to get out too. I'm going to take one with me, and he'd fire it. And Carson has an arm.
Yeah.
Would launch it at one person, but you could guarantee he was going to be out right there.
If I wasn't out in the first 30 seconds, I wasn't doing I wasn't executing my plan.
Yeah. Who did you meet at this man games that you didn't know that you were like, oh, this is a cool person? I know then there was probably several, but is there one that stood out where you're like, oh, I'd like to get to know this person a little better?
I liked Peyton.
Yeah.
Me and Peyton had we vibed a little.
You live close to each other?
We lived close to each other. We started playing pickleball on occasion together, but I just liked Peyton. Just thought he was cool.
Yeah.
We hung out a little. I don't know. We had a good time.
Very cool.
He was the guy that I didn't know at all, had never met him, and now I feel comfortable texting him.
Nice.
Nice. I'd probably say Brandon.
Yeah.
Brandon's just a great guy.
Yeah. You guys have that volleyball connection too.
Yeah. No, he's just a great guy. Yeah.
That's very cool. So your name has come up on a few podcasts around the volleyball stuff because we feel like you were throttling so that you wouldn't embarrass or hurt everybody. From 0 to 100 throughout the volleyball event, where would you say your game was at?
In terms of effort or in terms of like execution?
Effort.
I'd say for like defense and stuff like that, I was probably close to 100. In terms of like attacking, hitting the ball, or serving, maybe 70. I mean, there's a lot of times where like JD would just set me up with a great set, and you look and there's no. I mean, no offense to anyone there. Like obviously, no one I think besides me and maybe Brandon had ever played. So I mean, there weren't ever really blocks up, and so it's just essentially hit it wherever you want, and there's a bunch of sitting ducks. So it's like this person's like pretty exposed, so just tip it over. I mean, it's not worth like having a meet the parents moment where you just blow someone's face. Not that I could do that, but I don't know. Yeah, it was a lot of fun though.
What are people asking about my sports?
People were like, man, JD was really bad at calling basketball calls out or in. Like that was just common.
I think people should have been talking about JD's poker game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was
I
stellar.
really took it to
I
him.
mean,
Yeah.
you
You took
Vegas
me
that
out.
week.
You took Ted out. Yeah, you won that table.
Yeah, won the table. Back to the volleyball though. Carson would seriously have, like, we would get up 10-2 or something like that. And Carson would, he says that he wasn't sore, but he would just go, my knees are so done. Start setting Kyle.
I mean, I was exhausted. I wasn't sore.
Yeah.
I only have
Okay.
so many jumps in me a day. I'm like, we just did basketball. I got volleyball. I'm like, we got more games of volleyball. So I'm like, I don't need to get set every
But
time.
we played your team last, and I think you guys were also undefeated going into it.
Yeah.
And Carson rose to another level.
Yeah.
At that point, he
I
came
still
back.
don't think you were going 100% against us, and I saw that, and especially like on your serves, because that last serve I saw you like should I do the jump serve, and I don't know exactly what you said, but I knew it was coming, and I was just like, if this comes at me, I'm just getting out of the way. Like I'm not even going to try. I hope it goes long. It wasn't even close to going long, and that's how we lost.
I mean,
But you could have done
effort,
that.
like playing defense and stuff. I wasn't holding back. I was
Yeah.
doing what I had to get the ball up. Like, and even for like attacking, I was jumping. I just wasn't necessarily swinging as hard.
Yeah.
I mean, if the shot was there and like saw no one in the zone where I was aiming, I'd hit it as hard as I wanted. But if like people were exposed with no block, I wouldn't hit it at them.
Well, like your serve, you could have done that serve every single time against everybody, and nobody would have ever gotten the ball back.
Again, that goes back to the limited jumps.
Yeah.
You guys were the last game. It was the last one. Like, I can jump.
Well, you were awesome. Did you continue playing volleyball after college?
Yeah. So right after college, I went to law school, and then after law school, some of my friends I know, they asked if I wanted to play on this it's very loosely called professional team,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to start up. I mean, there's professional volleyball leagues kind of all over the world, kind of like soccer, but there hasn't ever really been a solid league in America. So they're trying to start one, and they have one in Utah, and it's essentially just a bunch of old BYU alumni. And so it's just a bunch of my old friends from college. And I said, yeah, I'll come play, come hang out. We'd practice once a week, and then we'd go travel around the country on the weekends.
Very
But
cool.
it was kind of hard justifying to my wife, who's home with 3 kids every time I leave, and I'm going out hanging with the boys and just kind of living like a high schooler again. So I did it for 2 years, and then I quit.
How many teams were in that league?
When I first started, I think there was 12, and I think they're up to like 18 now.
Wow.
And how did you did you do well in the league? Like how many
I did
kills? Is that the term that you would
like, how did I personally do, or how did my team do?
Oh, you personally.
Yeah, we don't care about the team around here. It's all about
You were our
I
athlete.
wasn't exceptional. I wasn't noteworthy where people in the league would say, "Oh wow, Carson, we know him. He's great." No, nothing like that. But my team did well. We won the league my first year, and then my second year we came third.
So when you say like semi-professional, were you getting paid per game, or are you getting paid based on how your team did?
Yeah, so you get like a per diem when you travel, and then at the end of the year, kind of based on where you ranked, you get paid, and then like you get a bunch of sponsorships and stuff like that.
How well does indoor translate to beach?
I mean,
I'm sure you're unbelievable, but like, could you go and compete on the same level in beach as you could indoor?
No, I mean, it's very comparable, but it's also a lot different. I mean, so like you're passing, you're setting, you're hitting, that's all very similar, but it's just a different game in terms of strategy. So, I mean, a lot of players like will go play on Team USA, and then once they get kind of older and the court starts wearing on their knees, they'll switch over to the softer beach, and they'll take a year or so to kind of get used to the beach, and then they'll be top level there too. So, I mean, it's not a really hard or like a foreign sport, but it does take a little transitioning.
So you're saying like beach is like the pickleball to tennis.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Perfect.
With beach, is it different because what position were you in volleyball?
I played opposite. So I didn't pass. I just hit and served and blocked.
In beach, you have to do all of it, right? So you'd have to kind of retrain to do the setting,
Yeah, I mean, setting's not really the hard thing, or hitting. It would be passing. And so you can set it up too. Like, strategy comes in very heavily in beach because it's like you have 2 players. Whoever I serve, they have to pass, and then they're going to hit. So it's like I could serve the better passer and the worse hitter, or I could serve the worst hitter but a better passer, and then it's like, where do I? Because whoever passes is gonna get set and hit. So I don't know.
It's not like demean like people that are great setters. Like they have
They have a place in this
they have a
world.
place. They'd be
Oh,
great.
in court, yeah.
Yeah,
Both
different. Yeah.
It's, I mean, and you have one blocker in beach, and court you have a lot more, and so the setter needs to be a lot more crafty, like you were at Man
for sure.
Games.
Very. I mean, there were some very tight passes to you, but you took them beautifully and you put them to a place.
You couldn't tell though how JD handled them.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
for
just
sure.
beautiful. That was
you.
fantastic. Well, you talked about the defense. Like when we played you guys, we were trying to serve it away from you, and it just seems like didn't matter. Like you could get it wherever we tried to put it because you're so long and fast and good. But that was awesome. That was fun to watch. Not super fun to experience the spikes.
How did it feel to, like most sports, how many sports did you win at Man Games this year? Your team,
Well,
not you individually.
so like golf, we tied, but the scorecard playoff, we took second. We won the basketball event. We won the home run derby. We
One pickleball.
won. Well, our pool A won pickleball, and I think pool B tied for first in pickleball. So those are the events we won.
So like, how did it feel just to, I mean, all the other sports you were probably pretty close, right?
Yeah, we took second in volleyball. I think we took second in poker. Spike ball, I think we took third. And then our other team took second.
So I think we beat, what was the score of our volleyball game? Like 11-1? 11.
Well, we went to 21. It was like 21-10 or something. You guys beat us pretty good.
How did that feel? That was your first like actual big defeat ever in Man Games, right?
No, it was fine. I mean, yeah, totally. Like you guys were the best team we've ever faced.
Thank you.
Yeah, is that what you were wanting? Yeah.
Third
Drag
place.
So this one hasn't been released yet, but Weston asked a really hard question he forced me to answer, and I'll ask it to you. If you had to build a Man Games team from people that were not on your team this time, who are the other three that you would want from the people that were at Man Games?
I'll let JD answer first.
John.
Who's never been on your team before?
Oh, has never been on
Sorry.
my team before. Mm.
'Cause-
Yeah, I'd say John and probably Brandon, because Brandon gets you basketball, golf, and volleyball. I don't know how he was at pickleball or spike ball.
Brendan's very good at pickleball.
Is he?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm not. So that
Would
be
you say you're
helpful.
better or worse than Brendan at pickleball, JD?
I'm getting better.
Getting better. Okay, so that's two.
I'll let JD name his ones, and I'll pick up.
And then you.
Okay, so I've been on John's team. Can I pick you or are you off?
If you
limits?
want to. If you want to
don't-
just
I
pad my
don't want-
ego.
I don't want you. I like going against you.
Perfect.
Weston.
Okay.
Because he's a good hang and he's good at golf and other sports. Sorry, Peyton, you're my guy, but I don't want you. Fit Burke. I don't remember his
Oh,
name.
yeah.
Justin.
Mhm.
Just because that would be something else to play basketball with him.
Yeah.
He had a dunk on us that I've never experienced someone dunking in a game like that on
Well,
me.
it was
around me.
It was in traffic, half court, and I'm pretty sure that would have broken everyone else's forearm.
Yeah.
And I'll
Yeah.
like ask him after. I'm like, Justin, like, did that hurt? He shows me he's got like this huge red mark. He's like, yeah, it hurt a little bit. Like you could tell like he's used to it. I'm like, geez, I would not do that.
Yeah.
But it was a slam.
He had the same thing against us, and it wasn't like the lane was clear or anything. Like Donnie, who's a fantastic defender, and then we're all helping, and he's bumping him and everything. He just goes up and just thump.
Oh yeah, he just
throws it down.
jumped through us.
Yeah,
It wasn't me. I wasn't sitting out.
Yeah.
I had a great
Yeah.
view.
totally.
Would have been different.
Had you been in there, you
Yeah.
would have just swatted it.
Exactly.
I was
but-
kind of there, but I was smart enough to move. I gave my half-hearted swipe, and then, but no, I had never experienced something like that. It was like a LeBron-esque dunk.
Yeah.
Ugh.
So you've got your two. You've got your two.
Oh, I
need
said, yeah, Fit Burke.
Okay, you want
That's
him
your
on
third.
Yeah.
I can't take Brandon because he's my mortal enemy, even though he's good at
I
everything.
said, yeah, gotta take Brandon.
I'd take Donnie.
there? Yeah, Donnie's solid.
Donnie's a good hang too. Gotta
Yeah.
have good hangs.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, so usually I ask 3 questions to finish this up. So if you've watched any of them, you know what's coming. But who was not at Man Games this time that should be at the next one that you know?
Tyler Cahoon. I've invited him a couple of times. He is a former college football player, pretty mediocre at everything else, so it doesn't help, but he is a good hang and would be good for Man Games.
He's a good dude.
So I'm hoping that JD will ask me to be on his team again. I mean, I know I let him down hard in pickleball and some other sports, but hopefully he saw some redeeming qualities and he'll ask me back. But if not, Kyle and I have a friend from law school who would kind of excel too. His name's Ryan Anderson.
Ryan Anderson. Very cool.
Still crossing my fingers JD's going to ask me back to be on his team.
You know I want you.
Well, we got spring qualifiers, and that's something where like you might have to travel if you're on the same team because you're up north.
Hey, I'm down.
I'd go anywhere.
All right.
We'll be there. We'll qualify.
All right.
We're going to win this. Except they're hard events for us.
Yeah.
We need volleyball.
What are the events again? Basketball, bowling,
Pickleball, cornhole.
Cornhole and basketball we could do okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Grant is an exceptional cornhole player.
And his wife.
And his wife.
She was at Girl Games. Crazy good.
Like actual strategy instead of I just am aiming for that big piece of wood.
See, that's kind of how I am in bowling. I'm just trying to not throw a gutter ball. I remember one time, like going with some friends, I got a 120. I'm like, this is amazing. I look at everyone else's score. It's like 160, 180. I'm like, I didn't know that. I thought that was like professional scores.
Yeah, I think it is. I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, 120.
Like, is 120? That's a good score, right?
If I can break 100, I'm happy.
No.
Great.
When I go bowling.
Eric is absolutely lying.
No, I'm not lying.
We had a man games. I don't
So
know.
I try to break 100, but that 120 stands out to
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. So we had a man games like 3 man games ago. John and I were on a team. We were going to take down Eric. We're in second place going into the last event. Basically, winner takes all.
This is an individual man games or team?
No, it's
No,
team.
team.
Me and John are on a team against Eric, and we had 2 others, Colby and Jameson. All we had to do was beat him in bowling. We're pretty confident we're going to get it. John says he's pretty good. John is good. Colby is good. Turns out Jameson and I are terrible bowlers. And I bowled a 105.
That's solid.
Dude, that's really good.
Had 2 chances to get to it. The best of 2 games. And I think Jameson bowled an 80.
Perfect.
Really let the team
So
down.
that's how we won that man game.
Yeah.
Well, I think you got to drop the low score.
Still wouldn't have had a chance. I think everyone on Eric's team had like a 150 and up. Like I think Donnie
legitimately
close to
bowls.
200.
He said he took a bowling class in college because he was an athlete as well. And so that was one of his classes that they had him take. And then Brandon's good at bowling. Brandon's good at a lot of weird stuff.
Brandon is good at everything.
Yeah.
That's why I want him
Except
on
for
the
he's a
team.
mediocre golfer.
Yeah. Very cool. Okay. Who at Man Games would you like to see on the podcast and hear more about their life?
I want to ask you questions. Let's flip this around after.
Okay. Well, you answer this one first.
I like to see Grant on here, not because
All right.
I think he'd have interesting answers, but the idea of Grant having to talk for an hour, I find humorous because he does not like talking.
I think if he could ignore the cameras, he'd do fine.
No, I think you would find a comfort zone,
Yeah.
but just talking isn't what Grant enjoys. Grant's a great person,
Yeah.
great hang, funny as can be, but it's just three words at a time.
Yeah.
So
Right.
I'd enjoy an hour of trying to get information from Grant because I've worked with him for over a year and probably know him just as much as anybody in the world, and
Yeah.
I have no idea who he is.
Grant, we're going to get you on here. Okay, last question then, and then you can ask whatever you
Oh
want.
no, I'm saying I want for who I want on Man Games on this podcast. I want you.
You want me on this podcast?
I want to ask the questions to you. I need to obviously prepare for these, but
Okay. Well, come back.
I want to get your whole story.
Okay.
I'd
come
also
back.
like to see Peyton.
And
'Cause
Peyton.
Peyton
Oh, yeah.
has a cool story.
He has a great story. He's a very cool story.
and very successful.
Yeah.
Drives a big old truck, way bigger than Eric's.
Way bigger truck. Way bigger truck. All right, last question. What does it mean to you to be a man?
Oh geez, I saw Kyle's podcast and he like pulled up a Latin phrase. I'm like, I'm not touching that.
Lorem ipsum. That's the Latin I know.
Res ipsa locator. I know a few legal phrases. What is it to be a man? There's a lot of ways you can go. I think just the main thing is to just get better each day, like whether it's like 1% better, whatever, just make incremental improvements, but be trending towards improving.
All right. What do you think, JD?
So, I mean, this is probably something I've been feeling more lately. Like, I always feel like I'm letting someone down, like not fulfilling like what they've requested of me. And I think that's like you always hear like, hey, you shouldn't care what other people think. But like, of the people that are close to me and that I care about, I want them to think highly of me. And I don't want to let them down. And so it's just I think being a man or a father or a friend or anything like that is just like committing to not letting those people that you care about down, and being there for them when they need it.
Do you think that kind of sets an unrealistic standard, though?
No, because I don't think you have to be like perfect all the time, but you just have to be there. You have to like be present. You have to be part of it, and just not. I mean, whenever I've helped a friend out or I've helped you out, Eric, like, do you care that it was a perfect situation, that I came up with the perfect solution? No, you care that I was trying, that I was there, and I'm just trying not to let you down and whatever you needed. But that, I don't know. I always feel like it's kind of a guilt, but I think trying to not let people down is those you care about. I mean, other people, who cares? But I think is what I try to do.
All right. Very cool. Anything else you two want to add to the 35 viewers that we have on these podcasts?
Just looking forward to next man games.
Okay. Get your team together for spring qualifiers.
Yeah, no, it was, I mean, I went in with pretty mediocre expectations, but it was like very professionally run. Like, this was a blast.
Yeah.
I would recommend it to anyone. I have been talking about it. I mean, people are getting sick of me probably talking about it. Who like haven't been like, we get it. You went and you played some games on a weekend. But like, no, this was like a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, people were less impressed when I told them we took a bronze medal, though.
Yeah, I didn't tell them that.
Yeah. What were the prizes that you took?
I took a hat very similar to the one JD's wearing.
Melon hat?
Yeah. So I was debating between that and the TP5Xs.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had some inside info that those are a little more expensive.
All right.
So I got those and I'll buy the TP5Xs.
Nice.
That attorney money,
Yeah.
$6 increments.
You got the poker set.
I took the poker set. I was excited for my big poker win the night before, and want to get some poker nights going. I really enjoyed the poker experience.
We got to do that.
We need to practice because obviously you won your table, so you're a pro.
Yeah, and you guys all, speaking of letting down, you guys all let me down.
I came like third or fourth. I think I came third. I was above half on my table.
Okay,
Kyle, like I look over, I'm like just getting like organizing my chips, and he's out.
Yeah, Kyle, 15 minutes in, he's out, but just talking to people left and right, just chatting people up. He was thinking business, not poker.
And had Grant ever played poker before? Was he?
Oh no, we had to download an app on the drive up, and he was trying to learn how to play in the Wild West. Saving the Town was the game that he downloaded. Didn't help.
You got to practice under pressure for when,
Which table you on? Who was on your table? Were you on Brandon's table, or were you on like Donnie, Brad?
Who was on my table?
Nate Snar, or were you on like Sione's table?
No, it wasn't on Sione's table.
Sounds like you're not on it. I just named all of them. So Carson was not on a table.
There was only 4 tables?
Uh-huh. So one had like Donnie, Brad, Matt Pace, Jettle, Nate Snar. And then the other one was like Brandon, the rugby player.
Yeah. That was my table. Was Brandon on that table?
Yeah.
He must have got out really early then.
I think he got out 7th. Yeah.
Yeah. He was quick out. It wasn't memorable.
If it makes you feel better, so I had the chip lead on my table, and then Donnie came over and all of my team came over, and they kind of said like, hey, here's where we finished. And so I knew that from that we were in first, and it didn't matter where I finished. At the time it was me, JD, and Ted. And so I was like, I'm done. Like, it's late. I'm just going to go out. And that's the only reason he won. He wouldn't have taken first in on the table.
That is the biggest.
So you probably...
I went big. Like, I had like a great hand. I had a straight with like my 2 cards completing it. And then on the flop, the guy gets like a flush. And I'm like, what the heck? How did I do like last... Or, oh, man, that was frustrating.
I'm just saying that you were probably the best poker player on your team. I just let him have that win.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to say.
That's classic Eric, letting people win. If you know anything about Eric, he always is just
no,
giving.
I know JD,
Never
and he's a hustler. JD's good at poker.
Yeah. That's awesome. Oh, cool. Well, I want to have you back, so please come back.
All right.
And then you can come back and do this and interview me anytime you want.
All right. Sounds good.
Now you know where I live. You guys are awesome. And I say this to everybody sincerely, like, because not just because you're at Man Games, but because I know you guys, like, if you need anything, I'm here. And I think that everybody at Man Games, they all have said unbelievable things about both of you. So I think that you kind of have a new group of friends that are there if you need anything, and they will do their best not to let you down.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Except for Brandon, mortal enemy.